I went through a significant second episode or bout or exacerbation, as it's called. And that sent me to the hospital, sent me to a doctor. I lived that way and I finally got the diagnosis of MS. And it really was a relief when I got the diagnosis because it let me know that I wasn't crazy. I truly should have been diagnosed with MS 20 years before that.
Hello, hello, Heal Squad. Welcome back. Glad to be with you today. We'll start with our quote of the day. It's all about taking care of your health and staying committed to your goals. And that is from our guest today, Montel Williams. I am so excited, Heal Squad, to have Montel on the show today. He is a true TV legend, a pioneer of daytime talk shows, and a living example of what it means to overcome the odds when they're stacked against you. For the past decade, you may or may not know, Montel Williams, an American Emmy Award-winning host, actor, and 22-year-old military veteran, is revealing the centuries-old secrets to managing his MS. Seriously mind-blowing how effective they still are, and his secret to beating inflammation, hint, hint. It's more delicious than you'd expect. Plus, we're going to talk about the controversy around vaccines and Montel's ideas to fix it. This is going to be an eye-opening conversation, and I hope you guys enjoy. Montel, so happy to have you on. I know we saw each other at an event recently, and we were just sharing our health journeys, and you've obviously had a very public health journey as well. So for the audience maybe that might not be aware of your journey, take me back to, I think it was 1999. You're at the top of your game. The Montel Williams show is crushing, and you got diagnosed with MS.
You know, it was really, let me tell you, 99 was my first diagnosis. I got officially second diagnosis. I wanted to make sure I got it, a second opinion from another doctor. That was early 2000. And I literally held a press conference right after that, discussing the fact that I had finally been diagnosed with MS. But here's the thing that's so weird about this, Maria, is that I truly should have been diagnosed with MS 20 years before that. Correct. If you go all the way back to 1980, I literally was at the United States Naval Academy, about to graduate, and it's kind of crazy. We were the last class of the Naval Academy and the last group of people in the entire military to have immunizations delivered by a gun. And I don't know, you're way too young to even know this, but way back in the 70s and through the 70s up until 1980, military would stand, soldiers in a line. They had this little gun that they put immunizations in, from diphtheria, typhoid, rubella, all this kind of stuff. And you step up in the line, they stick that thing on your shoulder, whoosh, hit you with a trigger, and it would blast the immunization into your arm.
Did you have that little round scar with the little holes? Because my mom had that.
Yes. But now here's what was really crazy. The first 100 people in my class at the Naval Academy that went through that line got an overdose, and about 7 times as much of the immunization that we were supposed to get. And I immediately felt sick, was hospitalized for a week. I went blind in my left eye. I had all kinds of really weird, bizarre neurological things and effects that no one could explain and why. If you go back to 1980, back then, if you read any physician's desk reference manual, those PDRs, they said and characterized MS as a disease of Caucasian women of Northern European descent. And back then, it was an anomaly that only 2 African Americans that were celebrity type African Americans were diagnosed with MS. One was Lola Falana, the other one was Richard Pryor, believe it or not. Richard Pryor's MS, they never really confirmed whether or not it was because he had really MS or he had MS traits because of his extreme drug use. So literally, here I am, a strapping 210-pound, 22-year-old, 23-year-old kid getting ready to graduate from the Naval Academy, who's African American, who has these weird symptoms and I do remember one conversation with the doctor, because I'm telling you, the military sent me I went to Johns Hopkins, Walter Reed, Bethesda, the Wells Eye Clinic. They sent me up to New York to be seen. I think it was New York Presbyterian Hospital. Nobody could figure out what was going on with me. And what it was the shot didn't cause MS, but the shot caused such a vor- voracious,
Autoimmune
correct
response.
response that it triggered probably what was in me genetically. And why was it in me genetically? Because my mother is biracial. My mother's mother was from Scotland. So
Mm,
therefore, that gene probably flowed down through her and to me would have never, it would probably always stayed a recessive gene had I not gotten that shot. But I got that shot. And then
yeah.
from that point on, for the next 20 years, I literally went in and out of doctor's offices complaining about neurological anomalies that no one could explain. And every once in a blue moon, one doctor would say, this kind of looks like it could be kind of MS, but we don't see
What were you
MS after.
feeling?
Oh, let me tell you, Grumman, again, my left eye, I went blinded and I went from 2020 to 26, 2300.
And it stayed
And
consistent?
it stayed consistent for about 6 months. And then it came back to about 2040. I had patches of numbness in my side, on my feet, on my side, every now and then, like I could do, I was a big um, gym rat. So I used to go to the gym, sometimes twice a day and moved a lot of weight. And there would be times when I'd be in the middle of doing a exercise where my left arm would just drop out. I mean, it was just weird. I'd be holding, I may have just accomplished 25 reps or 10 reps or 15 reps. And then, I'll go to pick up the bar and boom, my left arm would drop for a couple seconds. I'd move it around, shake it out, and they would come back. And I thought, I just got a pinched nerve. So I would go on about a merry day. And I lived that way for 20 years until I went through a significant second episode or bout or exacerbation, as it's called. And that sent me to the hospital, sent me to a doctor. And then finally, it's really crazy. I was in Salt Lake City, Utah, shooting an episode of Touched by an Angel, believe it or not, which was really crazy.
Huh.
Played I played this character who was a cult leader who, during the episode, I'm the only person on Touched by an Angel where the angel said, don't say that. They set my butt straight to hell. Because I literally had I set a church on fire with all these people inside of it. You know what I mean? And but throughout the entire episode, my character was called upon to cry, like, 3, 4 times through the episode. And the director was like just blown away how I could cry at the drop of a dime. But what he didn't understand was right as I flew out there to go to shoot this episode, my second episode started, and I was feeling such extreme neuropathic pain that I could just literally let go for a second. The pain would hit me. I'd start crying. I try to tighten it up if I could to get through the rest of the scene. And I lived that way. And I finally got the diagnosis of MS. And it really was a relief when I got the diagnosis because it let me know that I wasn't crazy.
Yeah, that happens to a lot of people.
Absolutely. And back then, this was an illness that, again, mostly characterized with women of Northern European descent. And, a lot of women would complain about the fact that they would go see a doctor and the doctor said, oh, it's all in your head. It's all psychological. It's all psychosomatic. But the truth of the matter is it was a neurological disorder that we've now figured out has afflicted about 10 times as many more people than we originally thought it did.
So, when you talk about the vaccines, I can't help but share the same thing. Like the COVID shots all activated stuff in my body and my dad's body that would have been dormant. I was not supposed to have a pancreas tumor. And now I'm having multiple friends have pancreas tumors. I'm like, wait, this doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Um, but that's what this happens. I'm curious, did you ever find out the other 99 people that got the over vaccinations, what happened to them?
For a little while, I kind of tracked it. When I finally started to put two and two together, I tried to track it. I know that a couple of guys did not get commissioned. A couple of people ended up leaving the military and had problems, and the problems all varied. They were mostly, I'd say, probably 70% of what I heard from people was that they were neurological in their what they were. But
Hmm.
I was the only one that I know got a diagnosis of MS. That was again, remember, 20 years later, because
Yeah.
what happened was when that happened to me, I'm one of the only people in the military in history of the Naval Academy to walk across the stage receive my diploma on graduation day and not be commissioned at the same time. They couldn't figure out what to do with me. And I was put on a medical hold.
Hmm.
And that medical hold lasted for 6 months. And during that 6 month period of time, my vision gradually came back to the point that it was usable vision. Some of the anomalous neurological symptoms kind of faded, but they were still there. Like I had trigeminal neuralgia, I had a lot of pain in my face, around my
Hmm.
eye. Um, I had pain in my side, which is out of nowhere. I mean, like about a hand size area of skin where you touch it, it would send me, like hitting your crazy bone. I
Hmm.
had the same kind of pain in my shins and my feet that would go get worse and lessen, get worse and lessen over time. Right.
I want to get into all the things that you did to help yourself in this condition, but I also want to share one other little thing. Vaccines are so hot topic right now,
Right.
especially with the RFK.
Let's go back. I really truly believe there was a place and time, and still is a place and time for vaccines. We have called the herd of polio. We have called the herd of measles. We have stopped certain diseases that along the way we needed to figure out a way to stop, or we would be living in a society right now with, 40, 50% disability rate. I think when you look at vaccines like polio, they are given by themselves. You look at measles, that is a single shot, and they tell you don't do anything else. Certain medications you shouldn't take and things like that for at least
Hmm.
10 to 15 days after. I think what we need to do and science needs to do is relook the entire idea of how we go about vaccinating.
Hmm.
And we've reached a point right now. I don't know if you saw this in the news about a week ago, which blew me out the door. They used an AI model and inputted a ridiculous amount of information. And the AI model came back being able to diagnose and prognosticate on illness at a 30% more efficient rate than doctors.
Yeah.
So why not right now take a look at, and we know that scientifically AI is really literally exponentially improving every hour on the hour. You release a computer and put it in the AI mode and tell it to go solve a problem, it not
Hmm.
only will solve that problem, but it will come back being able to solve it faster tomorrow than it did yesterday, and 10 times faster on, 2 days from now than it did 3 days from now or 3 days ago. So the truth is, I think right now, if it was no better time than ever for us to rely on science, why not rely on that ability of this computer model, or at least completely good? Keep testing it, testing it, testing it. And if we can come back and figure out that this thing may have an answer to questions like why do some people get ill from vaccines and others don't? Why do
Hmm.
vaccines? Then let's start asking those questions of computers because they are smarter than us. I don't give a damn if doctors don't like it or not. But if you were God, if you're a doctor and you think you're God, if you were God, none of us would be sick.
Yeah. Well, I know Stand Up to Cancer is using AI and they're really leaning into it for their organization. But I'll tell you, you know, the way we would use it that would be so helpful is we have to get back to individualized care. So you should be looking at the individual person, what they have historically in their family and within them, and then make educated decisions around how you're going to approach this. I really want to dive into how you approached your diagnosis because you've done so many alternative things and at a time when it wasn't where we're at now, obviously.
Right. Right. Well, when I first got diagnosed, one of the things and let's go back in time again. Now, this is 2000. The internet was not as robust. You couldn't get as many answers to questions as you can get now. And back then, that forced me to go to the old diehard tried and true, the library.
Mm-hmm.
So I started going to the library, and I figured, I'm just this kind of person. Not that I don't believe in trying to be the smartest person in the room because you can't be. As much as you think you can be, you're not going to be. There's going to be always somebody smarter than you, whether you like it or not. But I like to be as educated and smart as I can be, and by gaining as much knowledge as I can. So, before when I was given the diagnosis, I was given the diagnosis first. It was November of '99. And then I had a month and a half before I got a really good doctor's appointment with a doctor, a Harvard trained doctor, that a doctor who right now today is considered one of the top experts on MS in the world. I thought, I'm not going to go see this guy and not know what I'm talking about. So I literally did a deep dive. I spent probably 3 weeks in the library just looking up everything and anything around MS. And I started to discover for myself, I'm kind of like, I got an engineer's brain. That's what my degree is in. And I figured, well, clearly one of the biggest exacerbants for MS is inflammation, period. We know this for a fact. The more inflamed we are, the more we have exacerbations, the more we have episodes. And so, what can I do to counterbalance inflammation? And that's what I immediately started going after doing. One was diet, exercise. One was staying away from some of the things that are potential, really serious exacerbants for inflammation.
Like,
And, oh, we do know that in large amounts, red meat can trigger a autoimmune response that will be inflammation inside your body. Not everybody, but some people. Some of our ultra processed foods can do the same thing.
yeah,
Alcohol.
because if you think about it, it's fake food that your body's now
Correct.
struggling to figure out
What the
what to
hell do I
do
do with
with
this?
it.
Correct. What do I do
Yeah.
with this? So, I immediately, when I got the diagnosis, I thought, well, what's one of nature's ways to combat inflammation? Fruits and vegetables. So I sought about not deliberately trying to be a vegan. That wasn't what my objective was. I don't give a damn about titles like that. What I wanted to do was try to figure out how I can impact the inflammation in my body. And
Hmm.
so I literally figured, let me go on this journey and see how many fruits and vegetables can I put in my body in a given week. And when I first started doing it, I was literally eating like 12 apples a day, eating, oh, are you kidding me? 12 apples, a couple oranges, a couple grapes, blah, 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 blah. Anything I could
Wow.
put in my mouth, I just put them in my mouth all day long. Get up in the morning, I'd have a basket of fruit and I just sit there, chop it up, put it in my mouth. And then after about the sixth day, my jaw was starting to get too sore. So I will tell you a very funny story. I'll tell you
Actually,
a very funny,
hold that thought because we have
okay,
to hear from our amazing partners
sure.
that help us put this show together. Exciting news, friends. Macy's has teamed up with Disney for an exclusive collection featuring everything from apparel and accessories to collectibles, all with new and exclusive Disney artwork by Jeff Shelley, Disney's legendary director of character art. Whether you're a lifelong Disney fan or you're just looking for a little magic in life, this collection has something for everybody, from cozy apparel to special Disney keepsakes. You're not going to want to miss out on this one-of-a-kind collection. You can shop the full collection right now on Macy's.com, the Macy's mobile app, or you can go to Macy's stores nationwide. There are select Macy's stores that are carrying this. Bring a little Disney magic home today. Shop now at Macy's.com or head to your local Macy's. And of course, you can tell Montel uses Whey. If you're looking to elevate your hair care routine, let me introduce you to Whey. It's all about giving your hair care what it deserves without the hassle. Whey has everything you need for healthy, beautiful hair. Not sure where to start? Well, Whey has their quiz, which is a total game changer and perfect if you're struggling to find the products that will actually work for your hair. It'll match your hair with the best products that you need in just a few quick steps. I used my hair oil this morning. If you're ready for great hair, head over to theway.com. That's THEOUAI.com. Use the promo code Heal Squad. You'll get 15% off. Treat your hair to the way.
Ah,
All
that's a good one.
right. Okay, so you're stuffing your face with fruit. Your jaw is killing you. Like,
And
were
I
you
decided,
feeling better otherwise? Like,
well,
did you start to see an impact on the inflammation? How long does it take
for
to feel?
me, it only took, oh man, I ain't gonna tell you, about 3 weeks. And another thing
Can
that I
you
did,
share with people what inflammation feels like to you? Do you know when you're inflamed? Is it just like phlegm in your throat? Like, what do you feel?
no, I start to feel
Achy joints?
achy joints, tightness of muscles. Um, I don't, digest food really well. So I started getting, started having some issues. You know, probably, I'm not going to go into depth on this, but one
I
of my
love talking about poop, Montel.
okay, I do okay. Well, one of my really bad symptoms from my MS was the fact that it started to slow down the peristalsis reaction in my intestines, which people
Mm,
don't understand. You have these little finger-like muscles that help to move that poop through, and
yeah.
mine start not working the right way. And so I was backed up quite a bit. And
Yeah. That happens to diabetics too.
yes, so I started doing colonics and things like that to try to see if I could ease some of that pain. And that's one that starts to make me know that I've got something wrong. So I've got to really start paying attention to what I'm doing. And what I did was, I tell you, it's very crazy. I went out and bought one of these 500 back in the time. There were only about not really. There's only one blender in the marketplace that could literally crush up any kind of fruit or any kind of vegetable quickly without destroying the blender. And it was well over $500. And I was like, "Are you kidding me? Most people in this country can't afford a $500, $600 blender. Are you kidding me?" So I literally created something that was called the Montel Living Well Blender, which
Stop
was the
it.
first. Oh no, darling, which was the first high speed blender in America under $200.
Using that
And
engineer degree, baby.
yeah, come on. And then what I did was I literally, right now, if you go to the grocery store, you'll see green fruit smoothies anywhere, everywhere. You'll see vegetables and fruits mixed together. I defy you to go back in time and find out where that started. That started because I was on QVC probably 30 times. I was one of the first people to talk about how to make a green fruit smoothie, mixing vegetables and fruits together, putting together. I was putting together with coconut water, drinking a lot of coconut water,
Wow.
and blending them together. And that allowed me to pour as much fruit and vegetable through my body as I needed. And I was consuming, let me tell you, somewhere around 8 liters of fruits
Wow.
and
So
vegetables
now
every single day.
that will help you. I mean, listen, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. We've always
Correct.
heard that. But also, it's going to take down the inflammation, but also it's going to help that intestinal movement with all that
Correct.
fiber.
Correct.
I think I'm going to
Correct.
have some fruit and green smoothies,
Well,
guys.
let me tell you. Here's what you do. Make sure your blender can withstand it, but put some spinach, put some Swiss chard, put some pink beets, put some. Yeah, it depends on what you love. You like celery? Put a little celery in there, and then on top of that, put in there a banana. Maybe cut up a red apple or a couple green apples, if you can find good ones. And then you could also throw in there, fill the blender up with coconut water, cut that bad boy on, grind it all the way up to nothing. It's really a unbelievably delicious drink, and it's so easy. You can just play with mixing it up. You get your kids to do it with you. Mix up different types of vegetables, throw it in there. It doesn't matter what the vegetables is. So you want green beans, throw them in there. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, once you grind them up to nothing, and high speed blenders can pulverize things to a nothing, it's just liquid. So now you're pouring in, and instead of juicing, you're getting all of the fiber.
Yeah.
So I did this. I literally ate this way mm, for almost 5 years straight. And I think that was what helped to like put a break on what was going on. Now, I still had symptoms, but those symptoms were 90% less than what they had been. I did also go on a medication. I went on a Western medication, but at the same time, I started seeking Eastern herbs. It started adding herbs and adaptogens to my diet. And
Like
as I,
what?
ashwagandha way before anybody was talking about it, rhodiola, shishandra, um, uh, ginseng. I was using as many different herbs I could. That was helping to produce and give me more energy. Um,
So
and
if you guys are noticing what Montel did, like first of all, he became the CEO of his health. He
no
started
question,
investigating, started researching, started learning, started connecting the dots himself, and then started using everything at his fingertips to attack this. And and maybe not the mentality of let me heal this, but let me thrive with this. Let me figure out how to live a better life with this. And so he took action, and then he's experimenting, right? So this is what I'm constantly doing. You're experimenting with, how do I feel? Is this working? Let me shift. Let me, adjust. Okay, let me add some new things in now, right? Because everything is just going to be next step and next step. So then you added the adaptogens and the herbs. And
Right.
then I know you added like cannabis at some point. We have to keep searching. We have to keep researching. No one is going to do this for you. They're just
Let me,
not.
I'm glad you just brought up cannabis. Let me tell you something. On the 3 weeks into my diagnosis, I started reading and seeing some articles about how some of the minor cannabinoids were impacting neurological disease. Let me tell you something, girlfriend. I've not gone a day in the last 24 years without putting a cannabis product in my body.
Were
Period.
you a cannabis user before?
If I say cannabis user before the diagnosis, social user,
Okay.
I was probably maybe consuming 1 or 2 days a week, and I may go 2 weeks without, then another 1 or 2 days a week, and then maybe three
Okay.
days a week, 1 week, but not a consistent every single day user. From the second I got my second, and I'll tell you why. Here's what happened. Because after I saw my Harvard-based doctor, I was having such extreme neuropathic pain that I literally was put on, at the time, almost every opioid you can think of. And that's what actually caused my peristalsis reaction slowdown rather than the MS. It was all the opioids I was putting in my body to see if I
Yep.
could battle the pain. And over time, we know this for a fact. And this is something
That's
that I
why it was
find
excruciating, Montel. That's
correct.
why whenever someone's having surgery, I'm like, guys, you need to know you're going to have a horrible, horrible, painful bathroom experience. And fleet
Correct.
enemas are the only thing I know that works. Nothing the hospital will give you will work, because
Correct.
after brain surgery, I was crying. I mean, it was really, really painful. And that was the only thing that worked.
Absolutely. And I mean, what's really insane is that people don't understand, the whole issue of gut biome, which we could spend 2 hours talking about. But I was destroying my gut biome by taking those opioids, and so at one point in time, Maria, the celebrities, we can get whatever we want.
Hmm.
Girlfriend, I was traveling around the country, traveling, promoting the show. But then, I go to, let's say, Cleveland. I'd be in the Ritz Carlton in Cleveland, or, some really big hotel there. And all I do is pick up the phone, call the concierge. Yeah, my name is Montel Williams. Oh, hey, Montel, what's up? Hey, look, man, I left my meds home. Do you have a doctor on staff that I can get a 10-day or 5-day prescription of? Of course. Doctor will come over, name the set, I can get it. Back then, we didn't have oxycodone. We had things like Tauin. We had things like morphine. Girlfriend, I could call the hotel doctor and get a 10-day prescription of any drug I wanted, and they would just happily give it to me. So I started stocking up. There was one point in time when I was taking about 12 to 13. I won't say the brand because I'm not going after brands. Some of this medication does have a purpose. I don't believe any of the opioids have a purpose for long-term use. They're only a short-term use thing. That's what they should be. That's what they were
Yeah.
invented for. That's what they were created for. However, I was at the point where, again, the more you take, the less it works. So I was taking some to the point that, my main doctor started getting calls from doctors around the country because I had to put his name down saying, I just wrote him a prescription for 60 of these. I wrote him a prescription for 70 of these. I wrote him a prescription for 80 of these, for 20 of these, for 40 of these. And my doctor kind of called me in and said, dude, you're done. I'm not writing you any more of these. And I'm literally going to send a message off to the DEA and tell them that you are doctor hunting and doctors should not prescribe you this drug. So I'm going to put you on the national registry that you shouldn't get prescribed these drugs. And he said, but let me tell you something. If you want relief, I've heard from some other patients like you that this marijuana thing seems to work. I don't know why. There's a particular type of it. It's a CBDVDV, something like that. I don't know what the number is. You're a smart guy. Look it up. Figure it out. And I did just that. I started digging in and started to realize that what we didn't know, contrary to what's been told us by our own government, the U.S. had been funding research on marijuana in Israel since the early 1980s and spent millions and millions of your taxpayer dollars funding research looking at the viability and the efficacy of cannabis in many different ways, all over the world. Matter of fact, most people don't know this, Maria, but and I'm glad I'm on your podcast to be able to tell this. But you know, we have congressmen and senators today who argue the viability of cannabis and don't even know that the U.S. government owns the patent on cannabis, especially on all the monocannabinoids. And we've owned it since 2002. Why? Because we spent all the research dollars to come up with the idea and understanding. If you go up and look up, U.S. patent 6603507, look that up. That patent is allowed the United States government to give itself a patent back in 2002 for cannabis. And if you read the abstract says unequivocally that we realize that cannabis has effect on everything from ischemic issues to neurological issues, helping to reduce inflammation. When I saw the word inflammation, boom, I knew it immediately. So I started seeking out the cannabis that has more benefit that way, and that's normally cannabis that is higher in one particular cannabinoid that's called CBD. And I know that a lot of people have heard about CBD, but there are so many other cannabinoids that do the same thing: CBN, CBC, THCA. We know that this is a plant, and if you do believe in science, we'll remember that a guy by the name of Albert Einstein said, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Well, for everything that's happening on this planet, there was something on this planet that was here to counterbalance it. I believe that wholeheartedly. And I think cannabis is one of those things that was put here. And if you go back also, you were talking about, look at the polio vaccine when it came and what happened. Well, let's go back in time and look at when we outlawed cannabis and look at all the neurological diseases and all the things that have happened since then, and how man has reacted to, all the things in nature that cause us issues when we stop using. Because we go back, people don't remember, Maria, this nation wasn't built on tobacco. This nation wasn't built on cotton. This nation was built on cannabis. Do you know that there was a period of time back in the late 1600s, early 1900s, 1700s, where you could pay your taxes with cannabis? Did you know that when early Americans if you were a farmer, you were considered un-American if you didn't grow hemp cannabis? Every one of our forefathers grew hemp cannabis. And let's get this straight. Hemp and cannabis are the same thing. It's the same plant. We just arbitrarily came up with a number and said that if it has less than 0.3% THC, it's hemp. And if it has more than that, it's cannabis. But it's the same plant. And if we go back in time, look at the late 1600s, early 1700s, most Americans ate a hemp-based porridge. Why? Because hemp seeds were one of the highest protein-laden seeds that science identified back in the early 1700s.
Wait, I wasn't even connecting the dots. I put hemp seeds in my smoothies. I put it in
have
everything.
You have to. Hemp seeds, raw hemp seeds, first off, they have no cannabinoids. They are one of the highest protein-laden seeds on the planet. And the nutrients that are in them are nutrients that mankind survived on for thousands of years. And remember, we've known about the efficaciousness of cannabis for about 5,000 years. It's in every cornucopia of pharmacology that's ever been written in the world, because we recognize this as plant. And not only, let's talk about one more thing. First off, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, all of them grew hemp. Why? Because every sail, every rope that was used on every ship in the world was made from hemp. The entire Revolutionary Army was clothed in hemp fiber. The word canvas comes from cannabis. When we started making sheets, when we started making the covers for wagons, that was made out of hemp. Why? Because hemp doesn't rot as quickly in water as other fibers like cotton does. So up until 1937, which was something called the Marijuana Tax Act that was written by an asshole by the name of Anslinger, who was, what people don't understand, Anslinger led the movement of prohibition of alcohol. And even while he was running around the country talking about alcohol and alcohol abuse and how terrible it was for mankind. Anslinger did many speeches talking about if you want something to get that fuzzy feeling and that euphoria, well then use some cannabis because it doesn't make people violent. It wasn't until he lost his job where they repealed alcohol prohibition that he then all of a sudden became this hater of cannabis. And why? Because the two people that funded him, William Randolph Hearst, Charles DuPont, had an entirely different idea about what they wanted the world to look like. They wanted the world to be oil-based. And of course, Hearst wanted to be able to rip down every tree in America. If we were allowed to continue to grow hemp, hemp would have replaced his ability to use regular trees for paper. And if you go back, just humor yourself. Go back and take a look online and look at newspapers in the 1890s. Look at newspapers in the 1880s. And you go back to the classifieds, there's probably 2 full pages of classified ads back then talking about the efficaciousness of the cannabis and marijuana plant. And back then they didn't call it marijuana, but the cannabis plant, because remember, we just came out of something called the Civil War. We had more people injured and hurt and disabled after the Civil War than we've had any war ever since. People were walking around amputees. People were walking around with bullet holes, with remnants of all the disgusting things that happened during our Civil War, and they needed some relief. And that relief was coming in the form of cannabis.
Wow. I
So,
had no idea.
oh, we go find. Do you know that in during World War II, did you know that there was a movement that was the president announced was called Hemp for Victory?
No.
They forced farmers during World War II to grow hemp even after it was outlawed in 1937. Why? Because we were running out of material for the rope. There are 2,500 different usages of the cannabis, of the hemp plant.
What are they?
They go on and on and on forever. You can make hempcrete, concrete out of cannabis, out of hemp. You can make concrete out of hemp, and that concrete will last longer than the concrete that we make right now. And
No way.
oh no ifs and buts. Did you know that you can burn a cannabis or hemp plant to the point of turning it into graphene, and that graphene based out of hemp has a higher electrical storage capability than graphite that we use in batteries? Did you know that we can make something called hemp plastic? Did you know that we can make, we right now? And remember, it's a weed. Throw it in the ground, put a little water on it, it will grow. Now, you don't necessarily want to use the one that we're throwing in the ground, put a little water on it to grow, to consume in any way, shape, or form. However, you can use the fibers from that to make materials like the clothing that we have. It would be much more sustainable. And believe me, even
And
though we
healthier for you to wear than
oh, correct,
polyester. Like I'm searching now to find things that are not polyester and all those terrible,
toxic,
fabrics as much as I can.
yes. So anyway, I mean, that's what when I found out about that, and I
Wow.
realized that hemp and I realized that cannabis had that capability. I started putting it in my body, and I sought out what most people with the United, right now there's this craze for CBD, but you go back 30 years ago, our Golden Triangle up there in Humboldt County in Northern California, we had growers of cannabis back then that were trying to grow the minor cannabinoids out because they thought the only thing that was important with a marijuana plant was THC, which was a lie. It was
Yeah.
again another lie. There are so many valuable minor cannabinoids in places like in Australia right now. They've been utilizing cannabis to fight pancreatic cancer. They're utilizing cannabis to almost. There is a
Is
component
there a
of the.
specific one that they're using?
I'll have to go back and dig up and do some research for it,
Yeah.
but I want to think it's no, it could be CBD, CBT, but I mean, I have to figure it out for you and go back and look at it. But there are
Yeah.
articles out there. Look, just go up and there are books that literally right now are talking about the efficaciousness of cannabis in that plant for a myriad of illnesses that people suffer from that would not even imagine that it could help them.
Wow. Well, I will say that, first of all, when my mom was diagnosed with brain cancer, I instantly started doing all the same things. It was the first time I was confronted with this massive diagnosis. My dad was type 1 diabetic, and we knew how to deal with him, but this was like life and death because she had stage 4 brain cancer. You're like, this is it. So I did all the research. I put her on a modified ketogenic diet. I did do the marijuana. I would make her little pills. I would go to Whole Foods and
Hmm.
get the vegan capsules, and I would
Yeah.
do a 1-to-1 ratio of CBD to THC. And I mean, we did tons and tons of stuff, but that's why my mom, I believe, lived 5 years outside of her. I always say God, number one, her attitude and positivity, number two. And then all these things we did really gave a 360 kind of approach.
Right.
And what I'm loving about this episode right now is A, I'm learning so much, but B, I'm taking notes, not just on what I want, to make sure we share with everybody, but I'm remembering that I should be doing some cannabis for inflammation. When you talked about tightness in the muscles, I was like, yeah, my legs have been really tight lately. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? And then needing the fruit and the vegetables, like these are just great reminders, which is
Right.
why I love doing this show. Cause sometimes, or most of the time, someone comes on and it's something that I need to hear and something that the Heal Squad needs to hear. So I'm grateful for all those tidbits because I'm going to literally put these into action immediately. And now what I'm doing the hemp, I'm going to even be more mindful of what I'm doing with the hemp than I was because I was doing it for an added source of protein, but it sounds obviously very anti-inflammatory as well, which is great.
It should you should have no, it doesn't have the minor cannabinoids, but you can also get some fully grown cannabis. And right now, if you go to a really good state authorized, especially in California, go to one of the dispensaries that has gotten good reviews. In fact, that they're using good, efficacious products. You can go down that whole rabbit hole on finding different types of cannabis that has different variations of the minor cannabinoids. What are minor cannabinoids? These are these almost like proteins in a sense for the cannabis plant. And those chemicals, literally every single one of them has a different uses for it. I'm sorry, I wish I could find a book for you. Author Dr. Kaplan has a book out that is a guide that goes through and talks about the many different various minor cannabinoids that have impact some way or shape or form medically. You should read that. And
Yeah,
I
I
bet
will.
you'll find out, and then you'll start adding some of these things to your diet, like CBG, CBD, CBG is a minor cannabinoid that is the first cannabinoid that appears in the marijuana plant as it grows. But for the first 6 weeks, it's only CBG. But that CBG ends up turning into CBD, CBDA, THC, THCA after 6 weeks through the growth cycle. And then what happens is because here in the United States, we've had growers who've been so dependent on trying to get the highest THC level that they can, thinking that that's the most important part of the plant. It's not. The most important part of that plant is making sure that you get a good broad spectrum. So you have all those other things that are in that plant, and then you can grind that up and eat that. You can
Yeah.
get CBD A out of the leaves of a cannabis plant. There's a company here in California, right? You're in California?
Not currently, but normally, yeah.
Okay, normally, yeah. There's a company in Southern California called Juice Tiva. Look them up. Juice Tiva. Juice Tiva has been selling for almost 30 years. They are, I think, one of the leading companies in this country, understanding how to extract and how to produce good CBDA, which is the acid version of CBD, which is one of the most bioavailable versions. And they have a whole series of products that you can start taking.
Oh, cool. They're going to be my CBD doctors.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
So we're going to stop right here, guys, and we're going to come back with part 2 with Montel. I want to know so much more. I want to know how to do this and not get high because I have a child.
sure.
And I don't like being high. It freaks me out. I went in to get my mom's marijuana oils one time on the way to the movies to see the Joker. Fun story. And I said, hey, can you add in to the package of stuff? I need CBD gummies. They had these sour gummies. I loved them. And I had a brain tumor at the time. So I was like, I'm going to eat these. Great. Puts them in the bag. I get in the car, not looking, not paying attention. I grab a couple. By the time we're getting to the movie theater, I'm not okay, Montel. I am not okay.
I'm sorry.
And now I can't feel parts of my body. I'm freaking out and I think I'm going to die. I am so high and I am so messed up that I called a friend and I was like, help me reverse this. What do I do? And he's like, you just got to ride it through. I'm like, no, I'm going to die. The seats my husband bought us, because they were the only seats available to watch the Joker with Heath Ledger, was front row. Heath Ledger was going to eat me.
There you go.
And I'm like, it was the worst experience ever. So I want to know so much from you. All right, friends, we're going to pause right here because Montel gave us so much incredible wisdom and there's still so much to go through tomorrow. But we're going to dive into the other out of the box ideas and approaches that he's used to manage his MS and how he's worked on his mindset around his diagnosis. Plus, we're talking all about the talk show hosts of his time. And does he still talk to Oprah? We will share that and more tomorrow. In the meantime, be nice people, make good choices, and be present. Hey, Heal Squad. We have been on quite the journey together, and we're hearing from so many of you just how much this show is helping you heal and get better, and it makes us feel so good. We love, love, love it, and we just ask that you don't keep it to yourself. Spread the message and share the show or your favorite episode with your friends. And if you want to help us even more, you can leave us a 5-star rating and a comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and follow us on Instagram at Heal Squad. You can also DM us anytime because we love connecting with you. And finally, you can also join us on Patreon for our monthly live heal events with world-class healers and ad-free episodes exclusive only to Patreon and our Super Heal Squad for as little as $10 a month. So go to patreon.com/Heal Squad to join. Getting better isn't easy, friends, but as I say all the time, it's a whole lot easier if we can do it together. We love you all so much, and we love doing this thing called life with you.
This podcast and all related content published or distributed by or on behalf of Maria Menounos or MariaMenounos.com is for informational purposes only and may include information that is general in nature and that is not specific to you. Any information or opinions expressed or contained herein are not intended to serve as or replace medical advice, nor to diagnose, prescribe, or treat any disease, condition, illness, or injury, and you should consult the healthcare professional of your choice regarding all matters concerning your health, including before beginning any exercise, weight loss, or healthcare program. If you have or suspect you may have a healthcare emergency, please contact a qualified healthcare professional for treatment. Any information or opinions provided by a guest expert or host featured within website or on company's podcast are their own, not those of Maria Menounos or the company. Accordingly, Maria Menounos and the company cannot be responsible for any results or consequences or actions you may take based on information or opinions.